It's June 16th, 2022, and the Golden State Warriors have just reached the top of the NBA mountain once again.
And that'll do it. It's over. The Golden State Warriors return to a familiar place. They're on top of the NBA world. The fourth title in 8 years.
And this was the fourth ring in the Stephen Curry era, once again led by their aging big three of Steph, Klay, and Dre. But quietly behind the scenes, the Warriors were secretly trying to build their next dynasty.
Brown puts up the three. Off the mark. Rebound Wiggins. Got 3 seconds to get a shot off. Wiggins to Poole. Poole gets it off in time. Oh, he banks it in! He banks it in! They count it!
As despite being fresh off a championship, the Warriors had one of the best young cores in the NBA at the time, with the 22-year-old young star Jordan Poole, the 20-year-old top pick James Wiseman, and the 19-year-old rookies Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. And the plan for the Warriors was simple: maximize the final years of Steph Curry.
Gets the ball, puts up a three-pointer. Bang! Steph Curry nails the three-pointer!
While simultaneously building the next generation in the background to carry on the dynasty into the following decade.
Draymond setting up the rookie, spin move inside, and the hammer!
And this was labeled the two-timeline approach, and in theory, this way of developing young talent almost sounded perfect. It was like a new way of rebuilding on the fly. They would bring these young talents into a winning environment with some of the best players over the past decade, and they would also throw them into the deep end early in their career, seeing what they're made of on some of the biggest stages the NBA has to offer. But ultimately, it would create tension, confusion, and eventually it would lead to the collapse of a promising young core. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at what went so wrong for all the Golden State Warriors young talent. Now, if you do enjoy Warriors content, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more. And now, let's get into it. So firstly, let's rip off the band-aid and begin from the top with Jordan Poole.
Poole, the Euro. Counted!
From future face of the franchise to gone overnight, Poole would be selected with the 28th pick in the 2019 draft, and early in his career, Jordan would struggle before he would jump from 12 up to 18 points a game in 2022, the season where he played an instrumental role in the Warriors championship run.
Get away from Bryn Forbes. Poole's gonna walk into a three. Oh, the kid is ridiculous.
And after showing some brilliant flashes of stardom in the 2022 playoffs, fans started to wonder, would Jordan be the successor to Steph? And it seemed like at the time, the front office seemed to think so, as they locked up Poole on a long-term 4-year, $140 million contract.
And we got some breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ out of the NBA, where Jordan Poole and the Warriors have agreed to a 4-year, $140 million extension. That's all according to ESPN. Now,
and it seemed like Poole had the keys to the franchise once it was all said and done for Steph, or so we thought, because in a matter of moments, things would come crashing down for Jordan Poole and the entire Warriors organization, as we saw quite possibly one of the worst moments in Warriors history unfold, as Draymond Green would struck Jordan Poole in the face during practice.
There are lines and there are things that you do with your teammates, or you have disagreements, or even sometimes come to a fight where there's a mutual agreement that we're about to go at this.
Sure.
But that to me, when I saw what Draymond did to Jordan Poole, it didn't feel like it had anything to do with basketball. It felt like it had everything to do with personal, and I don't like you as a person.
Jeff?
And this moment between teammates would ultimately end up leading to the bitter ending between Poole and the Warriors. In 2023, after the incident, Jordan would still average an impressive 20 points a game, but clearly something was off. It felt like he was a shell of his former self. He was no longer that young guy with confidence out there on the court, endless amounts of swagger, and it felt like the pool party had dried up. But ultimately, tensions would become too high, and the Warriors Warriors would dump JP to the Washington Wizards for a 40-year-old Chris Paul.
What more can you tell us?
Cassidy, a big one. The Washington Wizards have agreed to send Chris Paul to the Golden State Warriors for Jordan Poole and 2 future draft picks, a first-round pick, a second-round pick.
And this shocking trade would ultimately be the key factor in the downfall of this Warriors young core. But next up, let's take a look at James Wiseman.
This reserve unit getting the job, and Wiseman with a block.
You see the help and recover there
Wiseman on the handle. Wiseman down the lane. Wiseman to the rim! Oh, man!
He took out his...
The developmental failure. It felt like across his NBA journey, Wiseman never got a fair opportunity. But firstly, let's wind it back to 2019, where the Warriors had just lost Kevin Durant in free agency, and they would be without Steph Curry and Klay Thompson for a majority of the 2019/20 season. And ultimately, this would lead to the Warriors having a league worst record of 15-50, which would land them with the second overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft.
The second pick goes to the Golden State Warriors, and that means...
And with that pick, they would select the 7-foot center who was supposed to fix the Warriors' biggest positional weakness, while also giving Steph Curry a dangerous pick-and-roll threat.
It's a good decision to just catch it and come down with it.
Now Wiseman soaring down the lane.
And in his rookie year, Wiseman would put up some solid numbers, averaging the 11 points and 6 rebounds a game, but more importantly, he would show some stretches where he looked like an elite threat around the rim on both ends of the court. But unfortunately, he would suffer a meniscus injury that would have him miss the entire Warriors championship run in 2022. But in 2023, fortunately enough, he would hit the court once again. But in all honesty, the Warriors never gave him a chance. He would only appear in 12 minutes a game where he would put up 7 points and 3 rebounds before he ultimately would be dumped to the Detroit Pistons mid-season.
NBA today. James Wiseman is headed to the Pistons. That's according to our Adrian Wojnarowski for Saddiq Bey. Wiseman was the number 2 pick for the Warriors.
And yep, just like that, after only 60 games in a Warriors uniform, he was gone. I have never seen a top pick with so much untapped potential be given up on so quickly. Also, considering the long-term issues the Warriors have had at the center position, you couldn't give him a couple more years to turn things around. And it also stings considering all the top talent that went after him in that pretty infamous 2020 NBA draft. But now, let's take a look at Jonathan Kuminga.
Misfires. And up ahead, Kuminga. Oh! Jonathan Kuminga! And a foul!
Talent without the trust. Kuminga was taken with pick 7 in the 2021 draft, and coming into the Bay, he had some elite upside paired alongside some ridiculous athleticism.
Last look. Top of the arc.
And in his first 2 seasons, he would only average the 9 points a game. He did show some good flashes, but at that time, in 2022 and in 2023, it felt like the Warriors almost had a logjam of young talent. All these guys looking for any opportunity they could get. But eventually, with Poole and Wiseman out the door, the Warriors' attention would quickly turn to the high-flying JK, and he would soar up to 16 points a game in 2024.
Got the size advantage.
Kuminga. Getting stubborn, getting fouled, getting the field goal, and going to the line.
But unfortunately, as we would come to learn, that would be Kuminga's peak in a Warriors uniform, because once again, the Warriors failed to take their young talent to that next level. We have learned for young players to blossom into stars, they need rhythm and they need consistency. And I felt like across his entire Warriors tenure, Kuminga was just met with uncertainty. And I felt like on any given night, we didn't know if Kuminga was going to play 28, 18, or 8 minutes. And I felt like that was the ultimate factor on why his development stalled so much. And instead of giving Kuminga that runway to fly, it felt like the Warriors kept him in the terminal waiting. And with that, Kuminga understandably became frustrated, and once again tensions got too high to the point where the Warriors were forced to sell low on another young talent, this time making a deal with the Atlanta Hawks for an aging Kristaps Porzingis in a deal that just went down in recent weeks.
Deloitte sources tell me the Warriors have traded Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield for a new center, Kristaps Porzingis from the Atlanta Hawks. So after 4+ seasons in the Bay, after being a lottery pick with the Warriors, they have traded away Jonathan Kuminga. His run in Golden State is over.
And by this point, it was becoming pretty obvious that the Warriors had an internal problem with the development of their young players. But lastly, let's take a look at Moses Moody.
All the great speeches in the world are all well and good. Dinwiddie back in, had it pickpocketed, Curry the other way. Kleber goes out on him. Moody, 3, another triple for Golden State.
Always ready, rarely used, Moses was taken with pick 14 alongside Kuminga in the 2021 draft. And out of all the guys we've spoken about in this video, he is the only player to still remain with the Warriors to this day. And in the early stages of his career, Moses would really struggle to crack into the rotation. But quietly behind the scenes, he was developing into the perfect role player for Steve Kerr.
His dad's former team. Moody on the baseline. Moses Moody.
And when given meaningful minutes, Mo would deliver defense, effort, spacing, and even poise, just being the perfect plug-in and play guy. And it did really take a while for him to gain the full trust of Steve Kerr, something that none of these other guys ever got the chance to do. But now it feels like it's come full circle for Moses. He's a full-time starter for the Warriors at the moment, having a really solid year, averaging 11 points and a very impressive 40% from deep. And with all these other young talents long gone on an aging Warriors roster, Moses Moody has become one of the most important pieces for Mike Dunleavy moving forward. And although he hasn't transcended into a star, you could very easily argue he has been the only success the Warriors have had with their young core in recent years. So in conclusion, what we have learned from the Warriors' mistakes with developing young talent, simply, you cannot grow a young core while chasing championships. You have to choose one or the other. Now, every single time, the Warriors would choose Steph's championship timeline, and that does make perfect sense. Steph is a once-in-a-franchise player, but you cannot half commit to both, because the result of that, the two-timeline dream is dead, and instead of extending the dynasty, I would argue they've shortened their runway in the final years. And for me personally, what hurts the most about this, the Warriors certainly didn't miss on young talent. They mismanaged it, and with that, it forced them to sacrifice their future slowly, player by player. And now, taking a look back to that 2022 title run, it wasn't the beginning of the next era, it was potentially the final ride. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Warriors content, and feel free to comment down below your thoughts.